Yeah, well, it's too late for that. I'm running for the United States Senate from Florida, and you can't run for two offices at once, so.
Senator Marco Rubio yesterday on CBS News Face the Nation, first saying he is not interested in becoming Donald Trump's resume, but then going on to reiterate that he will indeed run for re-election to the United States Senate in what was a reversal of a position he had earlier this year. So, what does it mean not only to Marco Rubio, but to the Republican Party and chances for the GOP to remain in control of the U.S. Senate? To talk about this, let's bring in our panel. First, from Newsmax New York, radio and TV commentator Ellis Henican, who tends to skew leftward, and from our Newsmax newsroom in South Florida, managing editor of the Shark Tank political blog, Javier Manjarres. You find it online at shark-tank.com. Gents, as always, we appreciate your time here on Newsmax Prime. Javi, you know Senator Rubio very well. He was saying he reflected on so many things, but especially the attack in Orlando. I got to tell you, that's a tough sense of timing to decide to run for re-election and pivot off that event. Is that going to hurt him in any way?
Well, I think the biggest challenge he's going to face is why he said he would never run for Senate. He's running for president now. He's running for Senate again. That's his biggest challenge. But look, he's got an opportunity here. I think for the most part, if any candidate has a chance to do so, he has a chance to change actually set the political cadence here in Florida for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump looks like he may lose Florida. And believe it or not, Marco Rubio did lose to Donald Trump, but he is still very popular here in the state. I think he's the most popular politician in the state of Florida. So he has a chance to shore up the Republican base for Donald Trump, but also help the down ticket or the undercard for Republicans down in the general election. Look, there's a lot of seats that are up for grabs now, especially Curbelo down in District CD 26. So Rubio will help Trump ticket up and ticket down.
Well, let's see how Ellis feels about this. Ellis, Marco is still facing a Republican challenger in Carlos Beruf, but I imagine on your side of the aisle, you think this is ripe for the Democrats.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, let's pick it apart one step at a time. I mean, Marco Rubio is immediately the leading candidate, right? I mean, he's a sitting senator, and even though he swore to the people of Florida that he didn't want to run again no matter what happened in the presidential race, and I got to tell you, JD, I don't think you put much stock in that claim that, oh my goodness, I was so upset about Orlando that I decided I had to serve the people again. Come on, that's not what happened. The guy realized he didn't have anything to do, and he decided he'd rather go to the Senate where he had a terrible voting record. But I mean, he's still the number one guy there, so I mean, he's got a good shot at it. The Dems have a very strong candidate, and it's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a really fun race.
Well, let's go to the phones and see how people are feeling, specifically in Florida. To Melbourne, Florida, for Marcy. Marcy, welcome to Newsmax Prime.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. What's your take on this Senate race? Are you pleased to see Marco Rubio saying that he's reversing course and going to run for re-election?
I sure am. I want to hold the Republican seat. I think he can win. I think he'll do great. He's very intelligent. He was a very, very competent presidential candidate. I also believe that Trump will win the presidency. All of our friends are going to vote for Trump, and I think that the Democrats are in for a big surprise.
All right, Marcy, Florida is a critical battleground state. We'll see what happens, and we appreciate your call. Speaking of the presidential race and the back and forth between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, listen to the former Secretary of State today on the stump with Elizabeth Warren talking about this unique interaction that Senator Warren has from time to time with Donald Trump.
And I must say, I do just love to see how she gets under Donald Trump's thin skin.
All right, Javier, we know 16 Republicans thought that going after Trump and getting under his skin would be a good idea, and we know how that turned out. Is this going to be a big thing, having both Hillary and Elizabeth Warren trying to pick fights with Donald Trump on down the stretch?
Listen, that's expected, but how many other Republicans come out and get under that wrinkled skin of Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren? But at the end of the day, I think this is going to be fought on Twitter, if you would. I think Donald Trump has the upper hand here. He's got to be very careful what he says because these are women we're speaking of. But at the end of the day, this is all politics. It's all in good fun. Take it with a grain of salt, whatever they say. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to issues and who stands for whose issues will Americans relate more to. So I mean, again, it'll go down to that. But I think at the end, I think Trump has a very good chance of winning over a lot more Democrats than Hillary winning over Republicans. And I think Trump will squeak it out at the end.
Well, Ellis, I need to turn to you because seeing both Senator Warren and former Secretary Clinton on the stump in Cincinnati has a lot of people going, are we going to see both a female candidate for president and a female candidate for vice president on the Democrat side? Will they engender this gender-specific ticket?
I like the question. I like all those genders in there. I'm doubtful, JD. I mean, it certainly would enthuse the Bernie Sanders wing of the party. The more progressive and energized Democrats love Elizabeth Warren. And I think she sounded great today. I mean, she really has gotten under Donald Trump's skin. Here's how you know it's working, right? If you have the Republican nominee, the presumptive Republican nominee, taking aim at someone who might be a VP candidate instead of shooting directly at the presidential candidate, Elizabeth Warren wins that battle automatically. Donald ought to keep his fire aimed right at the presidential candidate and consider those other people beneath him. But I think old Pocahontas might have gotten under his skin a little bit.
Yeah, or as we say, Pocahontas, since it was all false about her identification.
I know. He can say all that stuff.
I tell you what, with 2 minutes remaining, let's see what people on the phone have to say. To Staten Island, New York, for Anthony. Hi, Anthony.
How you doing? Oh, I'm so glad I got on you.
You bet. Go right ahead. About a minute for your comment here, Anthony.
What would you like me to comment on?
Well, you tell me. You're the guy who called. Let's talk about the Trump-Clinton race.
All right. Donald Trump needs to come out and say how this president's manipulating the news. A lot of the networks, they can't watch Newsmax TV, and he's using our tax dollars to have an agenda that's supporting the terrorists, and it's not for a free society. The way I grew up in my lifetime, it's to support a Muslim way of society and do away with the Constitution, and Hillary backs him, and this is our last chance.
Well, you mentioned that, Anthony, and lest Ellis thinks that is rhetorical overkill, there are reports, we're going to follow up on it later this week, where the president, in terms of the oath for new citizens, has taken out the clause saying new citizens would keep and bear arms in defense of the United States. Now, I got to tell you, there are a lot of people concerned about that, Ellis, but I'll give you the last word, 20 seconds.
I think Anthony sounds like a crazy person to me. Maybe I ought to give it to Javi. Maybe he's got a better response.
All right, Javi, 15 seconds to you.
I defer back to Henican. No, at the end of the day, listen, there's fun to be had on both sides of the aisle. I'm sure there's a lot of loons on the left and on the right. Look, at the end of the day, this all will play out. And
all right, gentlemen, I tell you, I appreciate that you're chuckling. With all due respect to Anthony, he's raising a topic that is concerning to many Americans, and we appreciate it. Nevertheless, gentlemen, we will have you back again soon. Ellis Henican in New York, Javier Manjarres in South Florida. Gentlemen, you have our thanks. And that'll do it. My first night back on the desk. It's good to be back. We'll be looking for you tomorrow night. Stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.